Congressman Bob Good here with your weekly Good News from Washington, and I'm pleased to report that my ALERT Act passed out of the House Oversight Committee, and this bill would bring greater accountability to federal agencies who are these unelected bureaucrats who continue to put more regulations and more burdens on the American people. It would force them to report those, report the costs associated with those, and help bring more accountability and lower costs in government. Our Budget Committee this week considered 3 bills related to reforming the budget process in the Congressional Budget Office, and the idea here is to know how much bills are going to cost us with accuracy before we vote on those. Imagine that as a novel concept, but that's how broken Washington is. This week, as you may have saw, we voted to try to impeach Secretary Mayorkas. Joe Biden's Secretary of the Department of Homeland Insecurity, that's facilitating the border invasion, these 10 million illegals who've come across our southern border in the past 3 years. Unfortunately, it fell 1 vote short of passage, so we're going to try to pass it again next week. Sadly, 3 Republicans voted against it, and all Democrats, but we're going to have 1 or 2 Republicans, we hope, here next week that weren't here this past week and be able to pass it hopefully next week. Obviously, I voted to impeach Secretary Mayorkas, and I think we ought to impeach Joe Biden as well because of the border. We also voted again on another Israel aid package, and I'll remind you that back in November, 3 months ago, the House passed a $14 billion aid package for Israel that was funded by cutting the IRS expansion, Biden's IRS expansion. Unfortunately, the Senate has ignored that. Chuck Schumer has been unwilling to support Israel without trying to tie it to Ukraine support, and also he doesn't want to pay for it by cutting anything out of our federal government. But we cannot just continue to borrow from our kids and grandkids, even for causes so great as supporting our ally Israel. And I was disappointed that Speaker Johnson, with the Senate not having acted on the aid package we sent 3 months ago, he brought a new one that was $3 billion more and not paid for, and it failed on the House. I didn't vote for it because I support Israel, but I think it ought to be paid for, and we ought not to bring a new aid package to try to appease the Senate, which they wouldn't pass anyway. Finally, a couple of press conferences this week. I joined Matt Gaetz, who led a press conference introducing a resolution of the sense of Congress, recognizing that President Trump did not encourage or engage in an insurrection or encourage an insurrection or lead an insurrection back on January 6th. The Democrats, of course, have been dishonest about this. The media has been dishonest about this. And we're just trying to express the formal sense of Congress that there was no insurrection on January 6th, and certainly President Trump did not encourage one. Then lastly, I'll just let you know that we continue to monitor the poor postal service throughout the district, particularly the Sandston, Richmond area, but also across the district. So let our office know if you're having particular problems with your post office in your community, and we will do what we can to try to help address that for you. So thank you so much for the privilege of representing you here in Washington.